So this is my great-grandfather, John Shelton, and he and his family founded this farm in 1900. And for about 20-something years, Dad just did continuous grazing with the farm. And this is kind of my first run at how I want to cross-fence the farm eventually and set it up for rotational grazing. So one of the first improvements I did was to put this cattle guard in so that we didn't have to get out of the truck and open the gates all the time. So in 2013, I decided I was going to have to raise cattle and make an income off of the farm. And the first thing I did was I put this cross fence in so that I could divide the upper ridge in half. We continued to rent or lease the right half, and the left half I started to work on doing improvements. I modified the loader on the tractor so that I could haul fence posts and a post driver at the same time so that I could put this new fence in. Came in pretty handy. I haven't really used the carry-all on the front of that tractor since then. This is our first summer of us hauling hay. We used the trailer, and I could haul 4 bales on the trailer and then 2 on the tractor. And we ended up putting it up in my barn. 144 bales went in there. Of course, we split it with our renter, and then there was an additional hay put up in the hay shed, but I was also using it for equipment storage. So we've got quite a few sitting outside. This was the first garden that Mom and I put in, and she loved working in that garden. We had a pretty good harvest that year. We did some canning, had a lot of fresh vegetables. We shared it with our neighbors. And here's another look at it at the other end. We had zucchini and squash and green beans and lettuce, and we had about everything you could think of. In 2014, I started doing some little projects here and there, and burning this paddock was one of them. And then we had our harvest again, and we did 40 acres that year. We still put up quite a few bales, over 300. And we also raised some peanuts this year. First time we've ever done that. Mom said Grandma used to raise them all the time and made peanut butter. And this is them in the back of the sport track. We did dry them. We did roast them in the oven. They were pretty good. Of course, there's always a nice sunrise pre-winter. So 2015 was the kickoff for me getting into the cattle business. I built a pen. I started managing the acreage. Here's our 5 cattle that we got, heifers. We ended up breeding them in September. I did a lot of the traditional feeding. They were used to eating grain from the original owner. And then, surprise, we've got the first bull calf was born in 2015. They weren't supposed to be bred yet. And here's Pokey. He's, what, a month old now? Sticking his head in the grain feeder. He grew into a pretty good sized bull. In 2016, we continued using this for hay. And this is the cattle. They're grazing that particular hay field in the wintertime. That's a shot of them again. And there's Pokey in the spring. He's put on a little bit of height and weight, and he's starting to look like a little bull. And of course, calving season. We did breed some of those calves in August, and so we ended up having 3 calves that year. Now the hog lot used to have a wash that went down through the middle of it. It was pretty deep in some spots, and there was a lot of boulders laying around in the hog lot. So I pushed everything into that ditch and then used the pond bank from the hog pond to lay over the top of that rock and leveled it off. We planted grass in there. And then in September, we brought some goats back. These came from Lloyd to Graff and Reed. And of course, we lost a tree that year in the hog lot, big old tree. We had terrible winds. For the most part, the cattle grazed in the hog lot, which is the West Coat lot now. And then they also in paddock number 1, which is directly behind my barn. And we did some grazing there in the barn lot later on. It was time to change the 50-year-old corral, and we had a new one built, and it's all out of sucker rod and drill pipe. Should last a good 50 years. 2017, I started the paddock rotations in earnest, and we still use the hayfield for winter stockpile grazing. Oh, it's that day, isn't it? I had 2 steers from last year that I had to castrate. Of course, 2017 birthing season has begun. Little goats, first one's born. And the cows and the goats all had the same corral there for a while. And there's some more little goats. Two more. They're really nice little things when they're young. There's me holding one of them. 2017 was a year of problems with the cattle. Hadn't had too much up to then. Here's the one that was breech. She'd been breech all day, so by the time I got her into the corral, it had already passed. This was a sick baby. First case of pink eye. This little calf lived for about 3-4 weeks. Well, not that long, really, I guess 2 weeks, and then died on us. Here's Pokey. He's looking pretty good at 22 months. He turned out to be a big old boy. This is 22 and her first calf. Our first steer is going to the sale barn. Born on the same day to different mothers. 2018 was a lot like 2017. We did do more rotational grazing. Our little goats, we had quite a few that year. Got a new tractor. There's Mom, one of our little calves. There's another one. And another one. We had quite a few calves that year, if I remember right. 7, is that right? A little bull calf. Number 30, he's a little bull calf. Number 4, she had a little bull calf. A little wobbly at first. Could hardly get around. And later in the afternoon, it was walking a little better, but still a bit wobbly, not like a lot of the calves. And there we are, we're grazing in paddock number 1, late December or September. You can see we got quite a bit of grass. We put in a double-sided cattle waterer. One side's in the hayfield, the other side's in north is now the east goat lot. We had a little fall. So 2019, we set up 10 rotational paddocks. Had some babies born in January. That was a rough on them that year. The horse comes to the farm, given to us by a fellow that came into the license bureau one day. She's a nice enough horse, but boy, is she hard to catch. I did get the opportunity to ride her. There she is laying with the goats. This is number 11, the number 1 cow's first heifer calf. Notice she's limping. She had a broken leg, it turned out. I had to walk her over to the corral and had the vet come take a look at her. We decided to pin her up for, I guess it's about 4 weeks. That's exactly what it was, a lazy afternoon. You'll notice our renter's cows on the other side of the fence there. Of course, everybody has to have a prolapse once in a while, I guess. She turned out okay. The vet did come and we got it pushed back in. Didn't get very dirty, so all was well. Here she is the next day. She went back with the herd. This little girl I found laying there, and she was in labor. Didn't take her too long to have it, to be honest with you. Then here's 2 more born on the same day. We had a new fence put in on, I guess about 3,400 feet of line fence. It's woven wire with 2 strands of barbed wire on top. And this Earl's just about ready to have that calf. Goats just love to play on them rocks, especially when they're young. This was their temporary quarters. This little calf was born underneath a blowed over tree there in paddock 2D. This is late September. Still got quite a bit of green grass. It's a little bit short in some places though. Number 2 cow ended up having chronic mastitis. It was time for me to put the equipment to work. I had quite a few projects. This is one that I'd been putting off for some time. Ended up working out pretty good for us. We got this area here good and dry, and drainage is good. It was really a pretty swampy area. Used the track loader to trench across that road. I didn't have a backhoe, but it worked out okay. And I had a bunch of broken gates that I repaired and repurposed for the goat pen. Here's me building a new goat pen. And we had this storm damage. Of course, I used all the equipment we had to get that post in place. And then there was a second one that needed to be replaced, so I worked on it too. Actually, every post on that shed needs to be replaced. I did my fall quarry run, put gravel down in different places on the farm. Helps with getting around when it's muddy. And then we put well water in for the paddocks so that I could do rotational grazing. I used garden hoses last year. What a pain that was. New calf, last one of the year actually. And this little pond here I built 15 years ago, something like that, with a little bulldozer, and it silted in, so I used an excavator and I cleaned it out. And it's fed from a spring. At one time there used to be a concrete tank here that they would draw water out of to water the chickens. I remember that when I was just a boy. Of course, my second bale cradle. It helps keep them from wasting that hay as much. Of course, they still waste it, but just not as much. So I converted the hayfield over to a paddock, and we started doing grazing in it in the fall. I had water now, I could do that. See the electric fence there. I've got it subdivided into 3 paddocks. And this is our fall mowing of hay. This is the upper bottom hay field. We did pretty good. We ended up getting 2 bales to an acre. 2020 is more expansion. We continue to use the 10 acre. I caught her again. And the bulls and the boys, they stayed in the goat lot. And this is early springtime mowing of the grass. This is the boys, the bulls, and the steers. And then, of course, birding season again. It's always great, springtime birding. We had quite a few again that year. And then spring rotation, I started moving the cows through the paddocks. 3A, that's the first time we've used it in the springtime. Normally we put hay in there. And this is one of the morning moves. I got the herd. They're in 1A. We're getting ready to move them over to 1B. Calving season is just about ready to start. And the grass is starting to kick in. Here's one of the calves. And she ended up on the wrong side of the fence that morning. And I had to try to get her back to the right side. Mama was worried about her. There's number 40. I try to tag him pretty early. 22's calf. We had some problems with her. There she is checking on her calf. They're in paddock 1C. It's a pretty good place for them to calve. There's some shade back there in the back that they can get under. Now this is early June. You can see we're starting to seed out. And they've been after that grass pretty hard. There's one of our little calves. And this is another one. Mama's pretty protective of it. There's a little calf there trying to get towards it. Spring mowing has begun. We're going to do 40 acres again this year for the spring cutting. There's the mowing in operation. That's a 5209 idea. Hay's pretty thick. Pretty happy with it this year. Here's the inspector. Cows liked laying underneath those walnut trees up by the barn. It was a good place. Another new calf. Looks like number 3's. And there is number 2. She's the only one that's got a white nose. Her calf's with her. This goat here, I could not cure. I don't know if it was parasites, age, or what, but she just didn't make it. Poor thing. Number 2 cow developed claw toe. And these guys are sharing the same or different mama, or I don't know. I don't even know if these calves belong to this cow. But about mid-July, I started rotating into the hay field. I put some temporary water in there using PVC pipe and watered out of tubs. And so now we have paddocks 4, 5, and 6 added. That's an additional 12 paddocks for rotation. There's one of the calves nursing. They're now in the barn lot. I decided to stop mowing the barn lot with a mower and let the cows take care of it for me. And they do a pretty good job. So the cows are in paddock 5D. They've made rotation of 12 paddocks. So they're probably about the first part of August. Grass is still green. That's all good. Again, we're using temporary water stations for them.
And we're going to move them to the old paddocks tomorrow.
And I like pulling thistles. I don't like to spray them. I pull them out of the ground. Put in a water station off of our pond. It's a temporary one using a tub and a little giant float. Wrong place, wrong time. Taking my grandson to feed the steers. They'll be leaving us pretty soon. This is me loading the portable rack on the trailer. Now I got it backed into the chute. These are the guys that are leaving, and it's goodbye. Ready to put in the permanent in-ground well. And we'll just kind of go through the process here. You can see the trenching. That's Dad's truck. This is a friend of ours, excavator. Well, I think we twinched out 2,200 feet on this time. This is one of the water stations. I think this is number 6. I put in 3. This is, I think, number 4's. And you can see it's a 55-gallon barrel with a tub. And then I put a tire around it to protect it from the animals. Then a sidewall for wind protection. Kids visiting the goats. And we're going to do another move. It's just a typical move that we do in a morning. This is one of the new paddocks that we made this year. I think this is number 6, C, D, something like that. That's what they're going to move into. They're getting pretty good about these moves. Starting to understand what it's all about. That's number 21 right there. I can tell you that. I don't even have to see her ear tag. Only takes a few to get going. There goes the rest of them. And they're doing a pretty good job of moving, like they usually do. We'll get them moved over, and then I'll connect that fence back over to the other post, and then they'll have water. And this is going to be the last move of the season. We're just about out of grass, and I'm going to start moving them over and put them into a winter location where I'll just feed them hay for the rest of the winter. Didn't get to go as long as I'd hoped to for the grazing season. And then finally I moved them down to the small hay field because we got ready to go on vacation. 6 acres in here. Hadn't been grazed since we'd cut the last cutting in the fall. And I left them 3 bales of hay. You can kind of see it down there, the last one. And then there's a watering station down towards the road on this fence line. It's that Stewart Concrete Waterer. So they've got full-time water anytime they need it there. So 2021 is going to be a year of more changes. I'm going to extend the water line. I fabricated a second hay cradle. My neighbor died. He had rented the property for a number of years. I had some problems with wind. I had to make some repairs. And this is the excavating of the water line extension to the paddock 7 and 8. A lot of clay in there. We didn't run into too much rock at all. Unlike some of the other ditches that I had dug. And here it was mostly clay. And there was clay at this far end. Now this ditch line, there was quite a few rocks in there, big rocks. Not a lot of little ones, just big ones. And so we were able to get a little bit deeper in this trench here. I used this 27-inch RCP, reinforced concrete pipe, to build my 2 watering stations in paddock 7 and 8. Now this is water station number 8, and it just stayed full of water all summer long. It was like a pond. This is number 7, and it was dry. So it's same hillside, but it was dry.
cows are coming up to say good morning. How you doing, new baby? Put them down here in this small hay field pasture. I got some of it fenced off. You can see the fence there. The calves are on the other side of the fence. Mom's not real happy about that. She's less happy about me coming down the hill. There we go. They're going to get up now. Mom said, get over here. Yeah. Said, get over here. There we go. Yeah. Does that make you happy, girls? Huh? Does that make you more happy?
Cow number 41 and her calf. I think that's her second calf now. This is 42 and her calf. Number 420. There's cow number 1 and her calf. She always had good calves. And this goat always got its head caught. It took a while before Nelson, as he's called, learned not to do that. Cow 22 and her daughter. We had a little bit of issue that year with her and her daughters. She liked her old daughter before she liked her new daughter. So guess what? We had to put her up in the pen with her calf, and I had to make sure that she let that calf nurse. Basically what we did was I gave her some grain, and while she was eating the grain, the calf got to eat. The craziest thing. She is a good mama other than that. Good milker. Actually, if you've seen before in previous year, she even let another calf suck on her. And there's number 40 again, tagged early. I get on them the same day they're born. I know it's not right, but the cows don't mind it. I've never had a problem with it, so I always try to tag them and band them if they're baby bulls and make a steer out of them. Now this is my grandsons. They came down and we did a summer project. This is an old trailer that belonged to my cousin. He passed away and left the trailer behind, and we've now started a project to convert it. We had to beef it up, make it longer, did some welding on it. This is the beginning of the installation of the sawmill, the woodland sawmill that we bought. And there's the completed project. And I have to say thank you to Mason and to Finn, my grandsons. And on this particular day, I had a hydraulic leak, and I had to go and fix that. I had a bearing failure. I also had some problems with the gear on that one. We actually had a spare assembly, an older one, but everything was still good, so we put that on to complete the mowing operation We ended up mowing, I think, close to 40 acres again. And the 5209 got her done another year. This is the lower bottom field cut. We let it dry for 2-3 days. Finally was able to take 22 cow and her calf and put them back with the herd. Here's the spring harvest, 128 round bales on 34 acres.
So last night we had 3 calves that was on the wrong side of the wire all night
and
long.
We're into a rotation
and this is
again.
them this morning.
This
so they all
is,
appear to be just a little bit hungry.
Oh, I guess we were in paddock 3. This is paddock 2. They're in 2C. You can see the electric fence there. This is rotation. They're probably about into early July now. And that's one of the calves that was sucking on 22, and that is not her calf. Feeding a bale of hay to the horse and the goats. They're in 2.5 acres, and it's just not enough grass in there for them. Put the bulls in, and they're busy doing their job. Must be at least the 15th of July now. I was bush hogging around one of the ponds, and I got that tractor stuck in the edge of the pond. And here's our last calf born in the end of July. I don't like them being born that late. Goats playing on the rocks. They enjoy doing that whenever they get a chance. Mostly the young ones. And these are going to be going to market pretty soon. So I've been feeding them a little bit, just get them used to coming in. One of our calves. Hard to tell what paddock they're in, but you can see there's grass in there. This is an August day, so you can see we're a little shorter on height of grass. This is a sign I had made, put up in my barn. And this is Brutus. Somehow he got his leg, I'm pretty sure probably butted pretty hard by one of the older cows, bigger cows. Maybe even the bulls. It's hard to tell. But boy, did they whack the side of his leg. They messed him up pretty good. You'll see I've got some extended video here of him and off and on through this, showing you what it looked like, how he limped around. I ended up bringing him over to the corral. And then this is my mom's birthday. This is September the 4th. And this is all of our family. There's Mom in the middle. My brother, my daughter, everybody was in there. And here is Brutus. You can see I've got him at the pen, corral. Leg's not doing a whole lot better. He's still favoring it pretty good. I didn't want to push him too much. And then lo and behold, I get number 3 comes up one day. And I don't know how she did this to her teat, but if you look real close in this video, you're going to see blood spurting out. So these are the cows that's going to the sale barn. I got them loaded and they are gone. Again, we're doing some mowing. This is the whole herd. So it's going to be early September. Now this is sometime probably closer to the end of September. And Brutus's leg looks to be doing a little bit better. And now this is going through the paddock rotations probably one more time before winter gets here. We're going to get as much grass grazing as we possibly can because I don't want to feed them any more hay than I have to. And the grass is not too bad. I mean, this is, like I said, this is going to be late October, just before the leaves start to turn. And you can see there's a few trees there with their leaves starting to turn. So that there is paddock 6B looking over to the corner, that far corner over there. That's paddock 6C.
So then they'll be moving.
So the grass is not too bad. I mean, it's not a Greg Judy paddock. Let's just put it that way. But it's not eaten down to the nubbins. I was pretty happy, or pleased, I should say, with how much grass we were able to grow this particular year and how it really served us well. And it does prove that if you do rotation, and you have to have water in order for it to grow, but if you do rotation, you can get more grass and be able to raise more cattle on the same amount of land. And so paddock 1A, or 2 actually,
First filling of the concrete cattle waterer.
So this is the last of the water stations going in. This will run off of pond water. And this is the pond bank. And this is the watering station. And here it is almost ready, and this is it filling. So I thought while I had the excavator, I'd go ahead and clean out this lagoon. It had been about 30 years since we had done that. So I know this video is a little bit long, so I hope you enjoyed it. And I thought I'd give you a review of the homestead. This is an overview. Its buildings are aged between 100 and 120 years old. And this is the overview of the farm. This is where I graze. This is where our neighbor rents. And this is our hayfield. And again, if you want to see what we've been doing, check out the other videos.